So, like, I still haven't come down from Sunday. Like, I'm still
Okay.
just like all week. I'm just like, yeah, like, and like every day there's like a new like behind the scenes video of something from the locker room or something from on the field or whatever, and it's just like just when it just hits me right when I'm starting to come down, and then I'm like all jacked up again, and I'm like, God, I can't wait for this Sunday.
Yeah, yeah. It's every day. And not just like behind the scenes stuff. It's the stories of like, I don't know if you saw someone got an interview with the fan that was crying in the stands,
Mm-hmm.
and then his story about like the reason he was so emotional is his dad died a few years
Mm-hmm.
ago, and they never got to like. And then it's all the outside stuff too, of Karen Stafford complaining as she always does, and
I
and
believe her
then
name is Kelly.
I'm sorry, what's Karen's name? Did I misunderstand something there?
Yeah, her name
I
is
wouldn't want to upset her. I know she likes to complain when she feels like she's been offended.
her name is Kelly.
Karen.
Sure, close enough.
Okay. That and Vikings and Rams fans complaining about Kirby, and just all of it has been like it's just been a flood of like content this week, and I'm not hot like on the high
Mm-hmm.
anymore, but it's like all I'm interested in looking at.
Right, and that's part of full disclosure. Anyone who like I don't know why you tune in to watch us talk about wrestling anyhow, but some of you do. We appreciate that. There will be no wrestling talk this week. This is for this week only. Well, I mean, unless something, depending on how this weekend goes, maybe the next couple weeks. No, because we're gonna have to do Rumble stuff at some point. But regardless, heavy Lions here the next couple weeks, depending on how things shake out. This week, all Lions, because between just being in the like, I'm way behind on podcasts because I'm listening to the radio. Actually, like I'm actually listening to terrestrial sports talk radio for consistently for the first time in years, because I want to hear all the different perspective from the hosts and stuff like that, and so like I haven't listened to any wrestling podcasts at all this year. This week I haven't watched. I saw one segment of Raw, the opening segment with Cody and Drew. It was really great. After that, like I was trying to flip back and forth between Raw and the Eagles Bucks game, but the football game was pretty much over early because the Eagles just gave up, and I because I was up so late after the game on Sunday, I was just tired. I ended up falling asleep on the couch, so I didn't hardly see any Raw. My plan was to watch it Tuesday after work while I'm getting dinner around. As I just told you, Matt, before we hit record, that day my wife got rear-ended on her lunch break. So after I picked Kingston up from daycare, I ended up having to go pick her up from work to bring her home. So that went out the window. So yeah, it's just been no wrestling for me. And yeah, I just want to get on here. We've texted, this week, but we haven't really had a chance to, you and I, just thoroughly discuss both the game this past Sunday and looking ahead to this coming Sunday. So, and we've been waiting 30 years for this, so we're gonna spend our time on it.
Are you sure that's accurate? I know I said this last. Are you sure? I don't think I've heard that it was 30 years between uh, uh, wins there or
32
home
since last
games.
win, 30 years since
Yeah,
last home game.
home game. Yeah.
So, and now we've got 2 in 2 weeks. So, pretty good.
Well, I think if we're going to talk about the game and all this time between home games, I think we got to start with the fans themselves. The scene there on Sunday was incredible.
Mm-hmm.
It was, you're sitting there, like, at least for me, I was sitting, looking at stuff on Twitter, the hours before the game, trying to not get too excited
Mm-hmm.
and trying to just be like, okay, I can't get too amped up, but I'm watching stuff on Twitter and the fans are they're amped. They're in the stadium 3 hours before kickoff. There's videos of the fans going crazy as the Cowboys are falling apart. And like, then the games, the coverage starts, the actual broadcast starts, and you're seeing that facility. And you're like, man, that place looks like it's going nuts. And it wasn't until after when you start to hear like Peter King say, he's been, from Sports Illustrated, he's covered the NFL for 40 years. He said that atmosphere is top 5 all time for him. And you're seeing all these people talk about how TV didn't even do it justice, and it looked awesome on TV.
Mm-hmm.
The den was rocking. Those fans, they showed up and they gave the NFL world a taste of what it's going to be like to have to come in here.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so cool to see like that stadium brought it. They were ready, and you can't tell me it didn't give the Lions an advantage.
Yeah. They were saying, I think they said it on the broadcast that like an hour before game time, it was like 75% people in their seats already.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, you see the video circulating online of, them chanting for Goff before he even made it to the field. He was, they're showing him on the big screen in the tunnel, making his way to the field for warm-ups or whatever, and the whole stadium's chanting Jared Goff, Jared Goff.
That's wrestling stuff. That's pro wrestling stuff.
Yeah.
The whole arena was like, this is our guy. Make no mistake about it. You're not welcome here, 9, and you're not going to be welcome here ever again because that guy is our guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Yeah, no, it's even for me now, it's like it's hard. There's no way you can put Stafford ahead of Goff now.
It's
like I'll always, not to harp too much more on Stafford because other than talking about the game, but like I'll always like have those fond memories of those fourth quarter comebacks and stuff. Like, don't roll your eyes. You're the one that's got a Stafford jersey. Like, don't roll your eyes.
Well, I had 2, and I ripped one in half during the Lions game against the Cowboys in the playoffs a few years ago. I mentioned to Holly, I was like, I think I'm going to rip my Stafford jersey in half on the podcast this week. She's like, you can't do this. She shut it down. I bought the jersey. It was the only thing we had at the time. I don't want to hear, finish your thought about his meaningless comebacks and how gritty he was for Detroit and how it led to nothing. Go on.
No, I'm done now.
I'm done. I don't have any, like, I know inevitably he's going to end up in the Ring of Fame or whatever. Mm-hmm. I don't care. I don't care anything about that. He's, in my mind, he's a bad ex that I have no interest in talking about or thinking about ever again.
Okay.
But last week I was all like, oh, give him his flowers when he comes back next year. And I know they're going to do it. He'll come back and that's when they'll give him the ovation. The hell with him. I don't care. He was such a whiny little – my kids are still awake. He was so whiny and petulant and such a child on the field Sunday. Like, I'm sick of that dude. I'm glad he's gone.
I didn't get any of that at all on the field.
Dude, the calling Kirby Joseph a dirty player and screaming at Hutch and after the game, like, pouting and, oh, I'm happy for the players. Like, fine, dude, whatever. Like, and I get it. What's he supposed to say? I get it. What's he supposed to say? Just no, I'm not happy about. Just say I'm a competitor. I don't feel good about losing at all. Don't throw shade at the fans. And you know what? Honestly, let me get this last part out, and then I'll let you go. Honestly, a big part of it is I can't stand his wife. I've never been able to stand his wife. She's a giant distraction all the time. She's a liar. She just makes shit up. And he has to go along with it and stand there like an idiot and let his name get dragged through the mud because she can't shut her mouth and he doesn't do anything to stop it and he follows her. I'm sick of hearing about him. I never want to look at him again in Ford Field. His last images at Ford Field should be leaving chunks of flesh on the ground, which he did, holding his ribs and going, Paul Korean back to life. That's all I needed. I'm done with him. I never need to look at Matt Stafford again.
Okay. Alrighty. I agree. Look. When we were texting before, like, or maybe it was the day after when you were texting about something. Whether it was her saying the kids boot her or whatever, or the kids got booed or whatever. But she's the worst part of she's the worst part of the Matt Stafford package by far.
Yeah.
Always has been. But anyways.
You don't want your kids to get booed at? Don't bring them into a football stadium and dress them up so everyone in the area knows who you are and knows who they are. You know, like, it's a very simple. You don't want to get harassed by fans. Don't go in front of the fans. I wear Yankees gear to Tigers games all the time. You've been with me, and people yell things. If you're gonna show up and sit in the home stadium, home stands in other teams' colors, you got to understand you're gonna get stuff yelled at you. As long as no one's getting physical, you just got to deal with it. And if you're that worried about it, don't bring your kids along.
The immortal words of Mike Valenti: "Nobody booed your kids."
Right. It's nonsense. And then she goes on her stupid podcast the next day and is like, well, no one actually booed my kids. Okay, so you just made it up for more attention so that Karen Stafford's name can be in the newspaper a little more. So people will talk about her stupid, shitty podcast a little bit more. Back to the Lions. Good vibes.
Yes.
I'm with the discussion.
I don't even know where we were.
Well, we were talking about Jared Goff getting the cheers and all that.
Right. Yeah, and that
before
was,
the game.
Like that's what. Yeah. So I think that's what this whole thing is like. Man, I'm just so, and then seeing, the after the game, the locker room video of you're good enough for fucking Detroit, Jared Goff, from Dan Campbell.
Well, just the guys chanting his name before he even comes in, like,
yeah. You can tell that, like that. Yeah, that team. Well, that team loves their coach, and they love their quarterback. Like,
yeah,
Well,
I texted you. I think I texted you after the game. Like, finances be damned. They can't let him go now. He's one of the 4 or 5 like heart and soul pieces of that team. You now, if he comes out and he's like, I want $60 million,
right?
That's a different story. But if he's reasonable, like, you can't. There's no justifiable reason to let him go now.
That's that's the caveat. I mean, that's if he's wanting Mahomes money, that's not going to fly because you got to sign these young guys here coming up here too, including the guy who's protecting his right side at the moment.
Well, and that's the thing they got to go to Jared about and say, look, man, we want to get you some money. We want to pay you, but you need to understand too, part of the reason you've been so successful is you've got the best offensive lineman in football on your right side. You've got a wide receiver who is your absolute go-to when you need a play, you know where to look. We have to pay them to keep them around. If you want too much money, they're not going to be here. You're not going to be as good. The team's not going to be as good. And all of this is for nothing. So you can either play ball. We'll give you $45 million a year to get you into the top 10. It's a huge chunk of money.
Mm-hmm.
But we got to pay Panay. We got to pay Sun God. I would argue that they're going to have to keep Jonah Jackson this offseason. They're going to have money to pay some of these guys that help make him as good as he's been.
Right.
But and also too, like, hey, look, we love you here. We want you here. You are not we're not looking to get rid of you, but business is business. Like, at the end of the day, we only have so much money we can spend.
Right. Exactly.
And if it comes down to it, out of all 3 of them, Panay gets paid first. If you can only pay one of them, he's the first one that has to get it.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Talk about heart and soul guys like that, dude. You sent me
23 years old. Yeah, unbelievable.
But you sent me, the video of his pregame, hype up speech, and it's like I texted you. I would. I'm not gonna say exactly what I said, but I would do physical harm to someone if Panay Sewell asked me to.
Yeah. Those speeches are like they're it. I don't know if you saw Hutch's too. He pulled the defensive line in and had one where he's like, "Look, I'm going to keep this short and sweet. This is for this effing city. This is for these effing fans. They effing deserve this, and let's go give it to them." Like that. I think Hutch is getting more comfortable being a vocal leader.
Mm-hmm.
And you put those two guys on each side of the ball as like your leaders of those two. Man, what a duo.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And so yeah, it was amped up for sure. And what I said hoped would happen. They started the game with the ball and they went right down and scored like easy peasy. I don't think they faced a third down their first two drives. I think that's the stat I remember. And yeah, they just marched down the field, 75 yards, touchdown, and then held LA to a field goal, and then marched another 75 yards for another touchdown, and then LA came back and they scored it. Then they started trading touchdown. It was that first half was phenomenal football. And they went in with the lead at half, and there was that. I thought for sure, like, did you get a sinking feeling when they did the whole called false start on Decker when it was clearly offsides on the defense?
No, I didn't. I was mad. I was like, how does this keep fucking happening? Like, what? How? And that play too of all things to mess up. Like,
yeah, that's pretty simple.
No,
like
I didn't get that feeling because that team is just like they let that stuff roll off their back, and it doesn't affect them. And we'll just beat you later. Fine, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It still doesn't take away from the fact that it's another bullcrap call by the league that they refuse to acknowledge that like their officiating is objectively piss poor.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I didn't get that. The only time I got the sinking feeling, I'm sure we'll get there, is when Stafford had the ball in the fourth quarter down by a point.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, the second half, 9 total points were scored in the second half. The defense has kind of stepped up to a certain extent. I mean, that was pretty much the game as far the Lions holding them to 3 field goals in the red zone. I mean, the only time they scored touchdowns is on busted coverages on long passes. Like, you take those 2 plays away.
I mean, yeah. I mean, they scored touchdowns, but it's not like they had any trouble moving the ball. There were multiple third and long.
I don't give a shit. If you keep them out of the end zone, I don't give a shit. Like,
yeah, I think the big thing that's not being talked about in the game, Dan Campbell outcoached Sean McVay.
Oh, totally.
And Dan Campbell's gutsiness is the reason they won that game.
Mm-hmm.
McVay, for whatever reason, kept kicking field goals. And, I mean, if you watch football, you hear it all the time. Field goals get you beat, especially on the road. And he didn't go for it on any of those field goals. He didn't go for it on 4th and 14 at the end of the game. Like, if ever there were a time to justify going for it on 4th and long, that was it.
Right.
The Lions, I just said, the Lions gave up multiple 3rd and longs earlier in the game. Even if you don't get it, you're giving the ball to the Lions at midfield. Say they go down and score, you're probably going to get the ball back with at least a chance.
Right.
He didn't show any guts in Dan Campbell's willingness to go for it on 4th and goal from the 3 and score a touchdown and of all things put trust in his kicker to make a 54-yard field goal. Like, Campbell is showing he's not just what's the word I'm looking for? The reckless
Dan Campbell.
The gambler. You're seeing that he's learning how to be a coach too, and learning when is the right time to take those risks. And I don't think Sean McVay matched him. And to me, that was the whole game.
Right. Yeah. That's the most frustrating thing, I think. Since after the game has been. For all, we just went through it 2 weeks ago with the Dallas game, and we mentioned that false start penalty earlier. All the times we've been screwed over by the refs, and like to hear people go, well, that was pass interference on that 3rd and 14 or whatever. I'm like, oh, really? Like that's your takeaway from this game?
Have you seen the video of that same play on Hutch? Hutch is very clearly being held as Stafford, like, dude's got his pad ripped up as Stafford is stepping up in the pocket to make the throw. So it's another one of those, okay, if you want to play that game, you got away with holding on the same play. So, sorry.
Right. Well, and then, Saints fans are like, oh, really?
Right. Like, now we're going to talk? Like,
so, yeah. But it's been frustrating, especially, like, nationally. There's been a lot of that of like, oh, well, that last third down play, that could have been pass interference and probably should have been pass interference and whatever.
Great. It should have been an offsides on the defense at the end of the second half. That drive keeps going. The Lions probably, or the end of the first half, the Lions probably get points off of that. So come on, let's keep talking about how bad the officiating is and who really gets screwed over more. Let's keep playing that game.
Right.
And the other one is the Kirby Joseph hit on Tyler Higbee.
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing that. That's a dirty play. No, it's not. It actually, you know what? I'll say that it is a dirty play, but it's the only way you're allowed to tackle anybody in the league now. So what's he supposed to do? And here's the other thing. Maybe you'd think after 16 years in the league or however long Stafford's been in the league, he'd stop throwing his guys into getting killed. Calvin Johnson retired because he kept getting beat up because Matt Stafford can't do a thing to protect his receivers. Like, I don't want to hear it.
Right. Yeah.
No one said anything when the Rams were going after Laporta's knee in the first half. No one says anything about that.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, it's just bad luck, I guess, that has happened in twice to Kirby here in a short period of time. But yeah, I mean, exactly. What are you supposed to do? Like, he can't go high. He's got to figure out some way. He's a safety on a tight end. If he tries to hit him in the middle, he's just going to bounce off of him. So,
right.
Well,
and the other thing is Stafford throws the ball low, which means Kirby Joseph has to adjust his target. And when Higbee's down low, like you said, you're not allowed to hit him up high because that's a penalty. The only place he's allowed to go is low. The NFL has created this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And now they're going to say, well, you can't hit him low either. And now the defenders are going to have like this much of a area to be able to try and hit guys. And it's just
right. But then it's going to be just like the quarterbacks. You can't drive them into the ground. You can't land on them. Football is not football anymore. And I hate being the old guy that back in my day.
Right.
But it really is like you've got to figure something out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, at some point there is a level of assumed risk here that is just part of the game, and you can't legislate that out of there because otherwise you're just going to end up with something that's not football. But anyways, so they punt the ball on fourth down, and it's one of those things like, it's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how this plays out. And it played out perfectly for us. The Lions get 2 first downs, including right after the 2-minute warning on a second down and 9. And it's funny. I don't know if you've seen this. It's the same play they ran to get their very first win under Dan
against
Campbell,
Minnesota.
And they run that same play to get the last first down they need to seal the game in the playoffs.
And I think they ran a version of that play in the Packers game, but instead of stopping, Sun God ran a little hitch, and then he faded into the corner, and that was when he was wide open.
Yeah.
The corner jumped the route, and then he just faded back, and it was wide open.
Yeah.
I know after the game, Goff and St. Brown said they've run that play a million times. They could run it in their sleep.
Yeah.
And that goes back to you got to go to Jared and say, like, that's your guy. you got to take less so we can keep him around.
Yeah. So yeah.
Real quick, how about Josh Reynolds coming out and balling out in the first half too
I
against his old team?
I had tweeted at him like, "Oh, Josh Reynolds revenge game. Let's go. I'm all for it." Like everyone's talking about Jared, but yeah, let's I'm all for it. He's been look, man, he's he doesn't get enough he doesn't get the praise that, St. Brown or Laporta or the running backs get, but he's another valuable safety blanket for Jared. And they have that chemistry and that relationship from being in LA together.
Yep.
And he's always, if he can't get to St. Brown or Laporta, Reynolds is usually the next go-to. And he's caught a lot of big passes this year for first downs and touchdowns. So
yeah, it's something like 90% of his receptions have either been for a first down or a touchdown. Like he's definitely that guy that Jared looks to, especially on third down. And he's another one. Like they're gonna have to. They don't have to, but I'd be really disappointed if they didn't give him a couple-year deal in the offseason.
Yeah. So, how I was never nervous. I was uneasy when the that last Rams drive where I was like, oh God, this isn't going to happen, is it? But I was never like, oh God, it's happening. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean, but I was not at that point. I was like, oh my God. You can ask Holly the next time you see her. Like the last 7 minutes of that game, I wasn't cheering. I was just like in my head. I was like, how am I not going to let this crush me?
Ruin my life.
Because I was, but I mean, come on, just look at Stafford has the ball late. He's down one. He's driving down the field. If he would have converted that 3rd and 4 without them getting the penalty, they could have ran that clock down pretty damn low. Like it was all setting up for walk-off field goal or kick it with 30 seconds left or whatever. And I can't believe this is happening. I can't believe this guy is going to be the one to knock you off. Did you catch the Dungeon of Doom podcast this week?
Yeah.
Brought by the magnificent M Live, Kyle Meinke and Ben Raven.
Yes.
It's a stand-up organization, outstanding coverage of the Lions.
Big fan of that podcast.
Yes, good guys. They had Dan Miller on this week, and he made the point of like losing to Stafford would have been huge to this team. It would have been a real gut punch because that guy knocking you out, Goff losing to that guy and his former team, it would have been hard to go back and in a couple of weeks and be like, well, they did a lot of good. Like it couldn't end that way. And for me, as they were moving the ball, I was like, oh my God, this is how it ends. And I'm going to be sick.
Yeah. No, I don't know. I just had this irrational, like, it's not going to end that way. Like, because I don't know, somewhere along the way maybe it was last year even, that flipped, because like the famous now the Justin Tucker field goal against Baltimore a couple years ago, like that was for the longest time I've expected them to lose games in those ridiculous ways,
right?
And I just don't have that anymore. Now I'm like, okay, well, they're gonna pull this out. Like,
I mean,
someone's gonna step up and make a play.
You can say that, but 2 weeks ago, it happened. Like, so, and I think that was part of it. Is like 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, they made the play. Like they got posed.
Right. But I'm not saying Stafford like it was a guarantee that Stafford, but like something's gonna happen. They're gonna call us for an illegal hands to the face or something that's gonna prolong this game. And I just in my stomach, I was like, I can't. I want to ask you though, what did you do when it hit 000 and it was over? What was your reaction?
I just was like, I couldn't make
Was
too
it
much.
yelling and screaming
No,
or
because Kingston was asleep, so I couldn't go ham. Um,
listen, son,
no,
some things are more important than your shut eye.
yeah. If the living room wasn't like the next room over from his bedroom and the walls weren't so thin, like I probably would like different house setup, I probably would have made a little bit more noise. But no, I was just like, it was just like they did it. They actually did it.
Yeah.
And I was like, I got choked up. I didn't get weepy. I didn't cry, but I could definitely got like that choked up.
Yeah.
I've had that a bunch this week. Like listening to like every time I hear the Dan Miller call, that's gonna do it. That's gonna do it. That's gonna like every time I hear that, I get that, and like I said, all the stuff with Goff, like I've watched the you're fucking good enough for Detroit, Jared. I've watched that like 50 times this week, and each time it's like, oh god, yeah. But yeah, it's just like I just like they did it, like, and we get to come back and do it all again next week. Like that was the most exciting part. It was like, not only did we get this monkey off the back, but we have a chance to come back next week and like further distance themselves from all that 30 years of shit. We can like just kick it all to the curb, like in basically in one season. We can just done with all of that baggage, and like that's just like this is like it's hard to like because I'm in the moment, and it's like it's different because the Lions have never in my life been in this situation, so it's kind of hard and not fair to put it up against some of those like Red Wing seasons and stuff like that, but like it's hard not to have this in like my top like 2, top 3 of like all time sports seasons. As a fan, like it's up there.
Sure, for sure.
And depending on I'm not getting too far ahead of myself. They got to win Sunday, and that's as far as I'm really letting myself go. But depending on how this season go, this it may be number 1 by when it's all said and done. But
yeah, I mean we'll see. It's I was thinking about this the other day. The only time one of my teams as an adult has really done anything significant is the Wings in 08 and the Yankees in 09. And for different reasons, those are both really special to me. But I was 20 some years old. So I still kind of think of myself as a kid. This is the first time in my, like, as I think of like a grown ass man that I've been as invested in a team.
Right.
And it's the team I've wanted to see do well my entire life. And if, we know the story. Yeah. So but it's also like the way it's all come together and the people involved. It's like I've never liked watching a team as much as I've liked watching this team.
Yeah.
I can't wait to hear what Dan Campbell has to say. And he doesn't even say anything that interesting. That like we love Dan Campbell, but it's not like he's up there dropping bombs at every press conference. Most of the time it's pretty bland stuff.
Oh,
but it's still like
no, I love the videos in the locker room.
The post game stuff is must see. It's must watch. And even the stuff with like Brad Holmes screaming in some poor person's ear in the elevator, like,
that was awesome.
Like,
Spielman just standing in front of him, like, okay,
like, sir, I know you're excited, but there's someone like 2 feet from you. Can you please not scream in their ear?
Yeah. So, but yeah, it's been a fun.
Real quick, it hit. The game ended, and Holly was sitting next to me. And she, like, I didn't say anything. I just sat there and watched. And I think part of it was the journalist in me of like, when something happens, you don't think about yourself. You think about what other people are doing. You watch what everyone else is doing. And I was more interested in watching them. And she hits me on the chest, and she's like, they just won their first playoff game. And that's where I was like, oh my God. And I could feel it in my eyes. And I'm like, I got to think of something else. Otherwise, I'm going to start balling over a wild card game, and I'm not there yet.
Right.
But I couldn't, it was almost like I couldn't believe it because, like, they're not supposed to do that. So, man, that was awesome. God, that was awesome. And the fans didn't leave. They stayed in their seats until the last player left the field. I guess there were some people in the stadium that said, like, they had to, like, tell people you have to leave because no one wanted it to end.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think looking ahead. So by the time they play Sunday, they'll know what is ahead if they win, whether they'll have another game if Green Bay manages another upset, or if San Francisco wins and they have to go out there. Do you think so? Like if they go in knowing that that's the last game, like that place is gonna be like even actually like I don't think my brain can fathom how much more wild that place is gonna get this weekend.
Oh, I feel like it's gonna be even more amped than last week. And I know it's hard to say because Goff isn't playing his old team and it's not the first game, but like the players are being very clear, like, you guys are making a difference. We need you. Don't stop. Like J-Mo today was like, we need to break that decibel record.
Yeah. I think they're like what, fourth?
Yeah, they got fourth.
So yeah.
So I think that's got a chance on Sunday, and just like everyone is so excited. It really has, especially, and I hate to keep harping on it, but like the stuff with Stafford and the Rams and Vikings fans and dipshits like Dan Orlovsky talking about how the Lions are in trouble and stuff like that. Like, it really feels like it's turning into Detroit versus everybody again. And that's I feel almost that's the way I want it. I don't want the national media saying, watch out for the Lions. I don't want people jumping on the bandwagon. You know, Campbell apparently sent out a tweet that was like, it's too late. If you were on, you were on, but it's too late now. And that's how I feel. And I think this fan base is ready to be like, no, this is us. This is our stadium. You don't come in here for happiness, and you don't get to come in here like it's the Lions of 2013.
Right.
And we're going to make this place hell for everyone who steps in here. Oh, I can't wait for Darius Slay to come back so we can boo his stupid ass off the field.
Yeah, that was dumb. Yeah, I saw that and I'm like, yeah, no, you don't get it.
I'm glad Pencil Neck has ruined your career. Yeah. Good.
Right. Yeah, that was, I saw those comments and I'm like, yeah, you don't get it. You don't get it.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just a connection with this team and this and the city and, you know, the state as a whole that I like. Again, I have to go back to like those. I am early before the week or before the game, I was in my head. I was making the comparison, like how this team really reminds me of the going to work Pistons, like the 2003 year though.
Ugh.
No, just hear me out though. Like those, you know, they got it. They make the sign and trade with Grant, you know, because he wanted to leave, and I was like, oh no, what, you know, this franchise is going to be in the shitter for a long time, and was, you know, like 2 years later they were in the second round of the playoffs, and then the next year they were in the conference finals. And this kind of feels the same, where like we trade Stafford, and that first year, yeah, they sucked, but then last year, you know, we went into the last weekend of the season with a chance to make the playoffs, and now this year we're like making the next step, and that not only are we winning in the first round, in the wild card round, but now we're in the divisional round with a chance to go to the NFC Championship.
Sure. Real quick, I'll be damned if you're going to let Chucky Atkins led Pistons be identified as sucked. Chucky Atkins is a legend in this town.
Sure. I'm just saying that first year, that last year that they were wearing the teal unis, right. Not a great year.
When everyone was like, "Who's that dude with the huge fro on the
right.
Pistons?" No right. one knew who he was.
This is what we got for Grant Hill. Like, what the hell?
Yeah, the greatest defensive player of his generation. Yeah. And I'm not even a Pistons slappy. Yeah, I can see that comparison. I was thinking of it too. Is like, you look at the guys that comprise this team. You know, Brad Holmes is a guy who had to work as an intern and then, you know, worked really hard. And the Rams were like, "We don't have a place for you. Sorry." And Dan Campbell got, you know, bounced around, and people made fun of him when he came out of that press conference, you know, the biting kneecaps and stuff. Jared Goff, we don't want you anymore. You're cast aside. CJ Gardner-Johnson, like, no, we're not going to keep you around. You're too loud. Amon-Ra, you know, he very infamously can rattle off, I think it's the 13 receivers taken ahead of him. Like, it's a bunch of people who feel like they've been forgot about and left out and treated like less than's, and no one identifies that with that more than Detroit. And I'm not a Detroiter. I'm not one of these dudes that's like, you know, oh, when I travel, I'm from Detroit. Like, no, I'm not a Detroit. I lived close to the city when I was young, but I'm not a Detroiter.
Right.
But the mentality in this area is still the same.
Yeah.
Of like, we get shit on all the time. We're the outcasts. We're the ones that no one goes to Detroit. It's a hellhole. Like, oh yeah, well, it's our hellhole.
Mm-hmm.
And now our hellhole is the most dangerous place to play in the NFL. And we got a bunch of guys who feel the same way.
Right. Yeah, and the other comparison I had was, it's and thankfully, like, it's this team's connection with the fans isn't born out of the tragedy, but this is very kind of like the '98 Wings too, where it was just like you could feel, you know, they got the, you know, won the cup in '97, and everything was right with the world for like a week, and then the limo accident happens, and like you could just feel like everyone come together and like lift that team to repeat. But yeah, it's just I thought I was over this part of my life as a sports fan. Like, I thought, yeah, you know, I'll always like sports, but I'll never have this like this deep of a love, or, you know, be this into a run as I was, you know, when we were younger. And like, no, like I'm you know, I'm a teenager again, like watching those Wings teams, you know?
Yeah. I think with this, it's because we've never seen it.
Right.
It's fresh to us. But no, Yankees baseball and Lions football are the only things I get excited about anymore with sports. I have the teams that I watch and I enjoy and stuff like that. But this is where I get fired up, and man, this has been so much fun.
Yeah. It's been a great.
What do you think about Sunday? I know earlier you said they got to win. I'm in agreement. I'm not going to be happy if they lose this game.
If they lose, I'll be very disappointed. It'll be very disappointing. You know, I don't know if you heard earlier today, you know, Valeni with the moving the goalpost conversation.
I caught a part of it, and then some idiot caller called in, and I turned it off.
It wasn't the dude from yesterday, was it?
No, the guy that was being a quote penis. Yeah, no, I was not. It wasn't that guy, but
yeah, like they've, and I think they will. Like, I'm not like, I got no reason to like, because like everyone's like, oh, all the pressure, all the blitzing that Tampa does. Well, they did all that in the first game down there in Tampa, and Jared had like his best game of the season. Like, he's actually, So there's a difference between against the blitz and against pressure. Like, you can blitz all you want, but if you're not getting any pressure out of that blitz, it ain't doing a damn thing. Jared Goff is like the fourth highest rated passer against blitzes this year, or something. I can't remember the exact stat, but I read it in an article earlier today. And like that first game, everyone, we didn't have Jameer, and Montgomery got hurt, right? Or was it vice versa?
Jameer was out. Montgomery got hurt. Branch didn't play. CJ was out.
I think one
of the linemen was out. Melifanu was out. Like, they were missing 7 or 8 starters.
Yeah.
And they went down and beat them by 2 touchdowns on the road.
Yeah.
As worried as I was last week, I'm that confident that I'm not. I think part of the reason why I'll be upset is because they should not lose this team.
Right.
There is no reason they should lose. And I get it. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin are dogs. Understand, it's still Baker Mayfield throwing the ball.
Right.
And I know Baker's played a little nice this year. He's still Baker Mayfield.
Right.
And they're not going to be able to run the ball.
Right.
He's going to have to throw 40, 45 times, and that just screams we're in the driver's seat to me.
Yeah. I mean, and the way Hutch has been playing like the last 3 weeks,
doing things no one's ever done in football.
He's a man possessed.
The problem is back this week,
right? They just got to make sure they get Baker down, because he can move a little bit. So that that's the one thing. And look,
I think that's, and not to cut you off, I'm not as worried about that, because with having 3 safeties on the field, or 3 safeties you can move in, or hell, even Jalen Reeves-Maybin, who's been playing out of his mind, you can just use one of them as a spy.
Sure.
And I think you're going to be okay there, because he can run, but he's not Lamar Jackson. Like,
sure,
he can run the ball, but it's not like he's a Josh Allen type either. So
right.
I'm really not worried about this game, which is funny to say, I guess.
Yeah. I'm not. Yeah.
I was far more worried about playing Philadelphia. I know they've been terrible.
See, I wasn't.
But I was far more worried.
I was praying for Philadelphia. That
See, the reason I wasn't scared about Philadelphia is, if we're not the best offensive line in the league, they are. And if we weren't able to get any sort of pressure, that could have been bad for the secondary.
Yeah, but their defense is trash.
Fine. But so is ours. And that's kind of my point. We lose games too. So, like, I'm so happy we're getting Tampa as opposed to the Eagles. I didn't want to deal with the playmakers they have.
Yeah.
And you'd have had Pencilhead coming in and DeAndre Swift coming in, and there would have been all that stuff to go to. And I know you wanted your slaying the dragon sort of stuff.
50 on Matt Patricia's defense. That's what I wanted. I wanted them carrying his head on a pike around the stadium after the game. That's what I wanted.
No, on his pencil. You take it out of his ears.
Sure. That's what I wanted. Blood is what I wanted.
Fair enough.
I guess I'll settle for beating Tampa. NFC Central matchup.
That's right, baby. Bring the creamsicle jerseys back.
I think it was Ben who tweeted, is like, if Mike Allstott and Corey Schlesinger aren't like the honorary captains,
game,
what are we doing?
What are we even doing here? Yeah. And then people are like, who's Corey Schlesinger? And I'm like, oh
God. So, yeah, no, I'm confident they should win. I'm always, as much as I texted you, like, we're going to the NFC Championship. Like, it's still the playoffs. Like, so anything can happen, I suppose. But
if it
something
were a
would have to
road
go
game,
horribly
maybe
wrong for them to lose.
Yeah, if it were a road game, maybe. But I mean, Baker's going to have to come in here and play in the loudest place he's ever played. I'm not worried about it. It's just I'm more concerned about getting out of the game healthy than I
Sure.
am what happens during the game.
Sure.
We haven't even talked about this. This is the healthiest they've been all season. Like, you talk about a team hitting their stride at the perfect time. That thing, like, the only guy we're going to be missing is Khalif Raymond, and I love Khalif, but they even said he might get out there this week too. So, like,
right,
you can't ask for a better setup right now.
Yeah. I hope I'd like to see JMO get more involved this week. He had the long touchdown against Tampa in the first game. He caught 2 passes right off, pretty early in the game last week, and then they just didn't even target him again the rest of the game. He's catching what's been thrown to him lately.
I really feel like it's a thing where they're using him as a decoy. Because teams know, like, if you don't watch him, he's going to burn you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I how does Sun God get so wide open on some of these plays? Well, because the safety's getting drugged 15 yards the other way, because if they're not watching him, you're in trouble. So like, as much as it sucks he's not getting the ball, I feel like he's a huge distraction out there still.
Sure.
And as much as you want to see him get the actual statistical success, if he's just a fancy decoy, I'm okay with that.
I mean, yeah, if it helps us, if at the end of the day we got more points on the board than them, then whatever. But it's just, I'd like to see him show out a little bit more, because I'd like to see him rewarded, because you can tell he's put the work in and he's, reliable.
Yeah.
So even if they got him,
maybe a couple.
Got him on a one of those reverses or jet sweeps, like he got that touchdown in the Saints game, like something like that. Even
I was just gonna say, like,
touches.
A couple, a screen or two, or get him on a drag where it's only 4 yards from the line of scrimmage, but hope he gets past his man and then he's got open field in front of him, sort of thing.
Yeah. Yep. So, but yeah, I'm glad we don't got to wait till 8:00.
Yeah. Although 8:00 prime time game, the Ford Field would be even louder, I think.
Oh, sure. That's our spot, man. I'm telling you, prime time babies.
I keep checking to see if they're wearing the blueberries, but they haven't announced it yet.
I think they are, because I don't know if you saw earlier, but someone had tweeted out. I don't even know. Someone I've seen, but I don't. But I don't know if they're really a reporter or what. But someone tweeted out that they were going to wear the blues with the gray pants. And and the Lions Twitter account quote tweeted them as like source me or something, like dunked on the dude. So
let me see. I'm literally on their Twitter page right now. Go ahead.
Or it said source, trust me, bro, I think is what it said. So that leads me to believe they're going to wear the blueberries again.
Sure. Well, the players like wearing them too. So
it's just a sweet looking uniform.
They got to. I want to see it with the blue helmets though too. Like, I just want to see it once with the blue helmet.
Too much.
I love those helmets. I love the blue helmet. So
I love the blue helmet. So I would wear the blue helmet with the gray jersey, but the blue pants. Those all grays just.
They look like pajamas. They're gross.
They do. Like, I don't mind the gray jerseys.
It says source, just trust me, bro. Trust me, bro.
Just trust me, bro. Yeah. So I think
whatever.
They know. I think they know. Like, there's something about those unis that, like, they just seem to play their best games when they're wearing those.
It's so weird, too. It's just the uniform.
It's just uniform, but it's one of those things. There's probably no, like, actual. It's all anecdotal. Like, there's no actual evidence that it
helps
be that way, but whatever. Give
me all the superstitions.
I was going to say, show me a sports fan that's not superstitious, and I'll show you a liar.
I'm not superstitious. I'm a little stitious, but not superstitious.
Okay. But there are certain things like if you wear a particular shirt and they shit the bed, I'm like, well, I'm not wearing that shirt during a game ever again.
I've worn the Barry Sanders jersey every game this season, and I will not change it.
There you
I will not wear anything else on game day.
There you go.
Real quick, since I feel like shaming my wife in the public,
Okay.
About 2 hours before the game, we're sitting there watching the Packers Cowboys. She looks at me and she goes, "Matt, I'm getting a little nervous," and I'm like, "Don't. It's fine. Like this is exciting." Blah blah. And she's like, "Yeah, but what if they lose?" And I'm like, "Then they lose." Like because I was trying not to get myself worked up. She's like, she starts crying. And she's like,
That's awesome.
But they deserve it. They worked so hard. And I'm like, she's in. Like, she is in, and she is making herself upset 2 hours before the kickoff. Like, she was so amped for the game that she made herself upset thinking about the possibility of them losing. She was yelling louder than I was during the game.
Nice. My wife, so we talked last week about
90 Day Fiance on?
No. So last week we talked about the movie theater thing, and the NFL had to come through and put the kibosh on that because they suck.
Roger Goodell's a douche.
But she had messaged me about it, and she's like, "Did you see this?" I go, "Yeah," and I'm like, or she goes, "Do you want to go?" And I'm thinking she just meant, do I want to go? Is this something you would like to do? And I told her that I had already talked to you about it and that. And she's like, well, no, I wasn't talking about Matt. I was talking about, do we want to go? And I'm like, well, sure. But like, what do we do with King? Then it was like, well, what do we do with Kingston? If it's a late, blah, blah, blah. And then it ended up being a moot point because Goodell squashed it. So then Monday, she sends me a screenshot of she must have been on one of her Facebook marketplace sites, and someone was selling tickets, and she had messaged the person to see how much, and so she screenshot me how much it was going to be, and I'm like, yeah, I wish, because obviously It was like it's cheaper than what I've seen, but still is like I'm not paying. We can't, like, I'd love to, but I can't justify it. So
right. Yeah, because the minute I drop $800 a ticket on a Lions game is when they have the worst game of the year, and then all this goodwill is gone.
Aside from that, like just being a responsible adult, like I can't put that type of money towards that thing, but yeah, if I were to, and then they lost, that would be worse than them just losing the game.
Yep.
So, real quick, if we can cautiously allow ourselves to look ahead a little bit, how are you? Do you want Green Bay to win and get another home, or do you want to go out to San Francisco?
No, because I want them to come here. I don't care who we play, honestly, but if I have to pick one, I want Green Bay to have to come here and do it again. Prove to us you can do it again. Because I know everyone's, they destroy the Cowboys, blah, blah, blah. I would not be shocked if the same thing happens to them that they did to Dallas this weekend. I got a feeling San Francisco is going to drop a bomb on them. I don't think the Cowboys are nearly as good as everyone thought they were.
Sure.
I said it last week, and then they proved it on Sunday. That team is highly overrated. Sure. They're choke artists in the playoffs. Yeah, Green Bay looked great, but Dallas looked terrible. I want the NFC title game in Ford Field. Make Jordan Love come here and beat us again to get there, because I don't think he can do it.
I don't know, man. If they go to San Francisco and beat San Francisco there, like, man, I don't know. I'm telling you, I do not sleep on this Packers team, man.
I'm not sleeping on them, but I'm saying if my choice is go on the road and play a dominant San Francisco team or have any team come here, my choice is I want the game at home. That's what it comes down to.
Sure.
Because I don't think as good as Green Bay is, or as good as Green Bay has been playing, I don't think they're better than San Francisco yet. And if that's the case, I definitely don't want to go to San Francisco where the Lions are historically bad on the West Coast and have to beat the Niners in Levi Stadium.
Sure.
That's my reasoning for it.
I'm just thinking like I don't know. I guess that that's me guarding because like obviously the best chance for us to win would be Green Bay here. But the easiest pill to swallow if they lose would be losing out in San Francisco.
No, see, this is the danger to me. We win this weekend, I'm not going to swallow the pill well either way. Like if they get to the title game and lose, it's going to be heartbreaking.
It's gonna be heartbreaking.
Either way.
But like if they go out to San Francisco and lose, like I'm not gonna be like it won't be unexpected.
Sure, but I don't. I guess we're just looking at this differently. Like I'm not going to be happy either way if they get to the game and lose. But if we're going to play the game, I want it in our building.
Sure.
And as good as the Packers have been, and as good as or as much of a whooping as they put on us on Thanksgiving Day, I trust Dan Campbell and that team especially to be much more fired up, much more prepared. And again, as I texted you off air earlier in the week, like it's a division opponent. We've beat them 3 out of 4 times. Like the two teams know each other. What's the difference at that point? Well, they'd have to come here, and that gives us an advantage.
Sure. Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. I'm on record saying y'all were crazy for being more afraid of LA than Green Bay, and I stand by that. So, but
well, we'll see.
We'll see how it shakes out. So, but they got to take care of business against Tampa Bay first, and then we can worry about those problems. So,
and then the week or 2 weeks after the title game, we'll be matching up with the Chiefs. And it'll be Eminem versus Taylor Swift in the pregame show.
Let's do it.
Real quick, and because I know we got to wrap this up. Not a McAfee fan, but I heard about this. The idea of before the game dropping the lights down,
yes,
and then playing Lose Yourself as the team comes onto the field. Yeah. That sounds awesome. That would be mwah.
You heard that from the caller who was being a penis yesterday.
Oh yeah, that's what I heard it from. That's right. Right. Yeah. Yep.
And it was actually a JJ Watt suggestion on his.
Yeah. JJ's having a great week. Trashing Pro Football Focus, giving Barry his props. Big JJ Watt fan over here.
Yeah. Real quick, I want to bring this up earlier, real quick. Last thing, because we were talking about Dan Miller, the voice of the Lions.
Best play-by-play guy in the world.
Yes, but again, it just goes to I was thinking, how lucky we have been, across all the sports, the announcers we've had for the various teams, both on the radio and on TV,
I'm not a fan of either one of the Tigers broadcasts.
Not now.
I don't really care for Mickey Redmond. I'll admit it. I'm not a Pistons fan. This Daniels, is out of my element. Ken Daniels is.
I'm
Ken
talking strict.
And Paul Woods.
Right.
Play by play.
I'm strict play by Blaha's a legend. Ken Daniels and Ken Cal, for the Wings on the radio and on TV. Back in the day, you've got the GOAT, Ernie Harwell. We've been blessed around here with some really good, broadcasters.
No, I'm not going to fight you on that.
So, but That's it. That's all
I know. I know everyone loves Mario and Pemba, but not for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Well, and I don't watch Tigers baseball, so I really don't have an opinion on that. So,
fair enough.
But all right. Well, that's it. If you stuck around this whole thing just to hear us talk about Lions football, good for you. I'm happy.
We'll be back next week.
We'll be back.
Royal Rumble preview, right?
Yeah. We'll have to do some of that, and hopefully we're talking about going to the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, there'll be the fallout.
That week,
maybe the inevitable end of you and I getting along when Cody and Punk come face to face Monday.
Oh yeah, we'll have to talk about that. Yeah, no, next week's gonna be a good show.
Next week's gonna be a packed episode because we got to do our predictions on the Rumble too.
That Rumble that weekend. Oh my god.
Setting yourself up.
I know. I gotta stop. I gotta chill. Can't put the cart before the horse.
Lose 41-10 to the Packers. CM Punk wins the Royal Rumble. Chris quits the podcast.
No, the Punk winning the Rumble. I'm fine with. I don't care about that. No, I just was meant watch. I thought you meant I was setting myself up, and then they were gonna go out and choke this weekend and not even make it to the NFC Championship game.
No.
So. God damn. This fucking rules.
Is it Sunday yet?
Unfortunately not, but soon. Very soon. That's right. Until next time, you're good enough for this fucking podcast, Matt.